everyone. Welcome to another action-packed edition of ARG Presents. I'm your good friend, your good pal, your brother from another mother, Amigo Aaron, joined by a man who, much like today's system, goes by several hundred different names. I give you Bill Smith. Why does that make you talk like a seal? What the?
Did you not know Bill Smith is a seal?
No, I did not know that. How you doing this week, Bill? Very good. You know,
I've been kissed by a rose. I don't know.
Oh, God. That's hard to believe anything will kiss you. Anyway, last week we spun the wheel. We made the deal, the Brent. It's a big deal this week. Hermsky has spoken.
Yes, that's it.
And this week, we're going to be playing a couple selections from the BAM Acetronics MPU 1000. What do you think about that, though, Brent? The MPU 1000.
That is one of its many names. That's correct.
Yeah, and we're going to go over that. Researching this was quite a rabbit hole with Brent. But before we get too heavily into it,
all right.
I'm assuming you never heard of the MPU 1000.
No.
Right?
I thought it was a chip.
So, you know, I didn't think I'd heard of it, but then I was gently reminded that I'm a fool because I talked to Hermsky about it a long time ago. Totally forgot. And so, thank goodness he brought this to my attention so I can remember what he was talking about. Now, before we get into this thing proper, I want to talk about it. Attempting to emulate the MPU 1000. So I'm very fortunate that I have a Mr. FPGA, Brent,
yes,
as you know. And the FPGA supports the core for the Acetronics,
yes,
which we'll get into. If you do attempt to use this core, a simple trick, and Hermsky pointed this out to me, he made it easy. The core requires a analog control stick.
Of course.
Analog.
Yeah.
So if you try to play this, and I've had the same problem with the Coco, make sure you set this up with an analog controller. I ended up using the Xbox One controller, Brent. What do you think about that? Did you know I had one of those?
I did.
Yeah.
I'm kind of surprised you do.
I don't have an Xbox One, but I got the controller. And
it's a decent controller.
And once we rigged it up, it worked pretty good. We didn't have any trouble with that.
I played it on his house.
Yeah, he came over because, Brent, how did it go on trying to emulate this?
Not well. I mean, much like you, I had a tremendous issue just finding the ROMs.
The ROMs were difficult to find. In
Yeah.
fact, the only reason I found the ROMs was from an old forum post that I just lingered around, and look, amazingly, like this 10-year-old post still had working links to the ROMs,
which is mind-boggling.
And so I grabbed them from there. So yeah, this isn't one you're going to see in most collections or coin ops. I mean,
well,
this
is in Maine. This is in Maine. But yeah, it was more of a nightmare than I could handle in the time restraints I had.
Let's get into the particulars a little bit, the Brent. So this thing, we're going into the moniker here, the Acetronics MPU 1000. But this thing had about 1 million different names for what was essentially the same exact product here. Now, of course, the Acetronics was manufactured by Acetronics somewhere around 79. And the controllers on this were very interesting. And I'm going to get to the other formats of this system since we're doing an Acetronics. The controllers on this bad boy were a combination that I told the Brent before the show. They sort of reminded me of the 5200 controllers with a Coco Black Beauty stapled to the top of them, because it's got a non-centering analog stick on a long controller. You can hold sort of like a phone
and television controller,
and it's got buttons sort of like a phone on it.
Yeah.
So it's not. I mean, of course, we don't have an Acetronics, but if we did, the controller didn't look that bad. I mean, listen, it looked better than the 5200 version because it looked like it'd break less. I like, having played the Odyssey for so long, or the Coco, I kind of like those non-centering sticks. They're not bad. I get used to them after a while.
No.
I kind of like the idea. It's got a couple fire buttons on there as well.
It's got 1 billion buttons.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying it's got 2 fire.
And it uses absolutely none of them.
Yeah. I should also mention that the sticks, much like the Odyssey, are unremovable. You have to take the whole thing apart, which is never
hardwired.
Good. So, what is this thing? This wacky thing? It's got it's a little console. Again, this would have been released, and again, we're going over different time periods because this would have been released somewhere back between the 78 and 80, somewhere in that ballpark, and different ones have different times that they were released. So, again, this runs on the Signetics 2650A,
of course,
right, with a Signetics 2636 video controller processor on there, 43 bytes of RAM. Yeah, not so much. Colors, it's funny, my source here says 8 with a question mark. So there you go.
But it has the colors it has are good colors.
Yeah, well, it looks real good when you play it on an HDMI recreation.
Well, no, I'm sure the colors are colors, man. They got good colors.
Yeah, it's got a single channel beeper which can make some noise. The machine itself, the Acetronic, has a RF TV output, a power input, and a cartridge slot. That's what you've got on there.
Well, some of them and some of the variants have composite as well.
Yeah, and I'm talking just the Acetronic.
Yeah, okay.
And of course, you got the external power supply, and you've got cartridges made for the Acetronic by Acetronic. You'll see the cartridges that we look at today are labeled as Acetronic, but if you actually get into the MPU 1000, the family of these things, for the most part, hardware-wise, all the cartridges for all the different names should be compatible. The problem is they're not.
Yeah.
And the reason is...
You pulled the board out.
The reason is that a lot of these different companies that made the MPU 1000 boards would wire up the cartridge slots differently. And this is presumably so they could make the cartridges exclusively for that particular slot, to be my guess. Now, there were some that had the same cartridge slot, which we'll get into here. On the Mister, this particular machine falls under the Interton VC4000 heading. That's what you use at the core, and that's what it is. This is what this series of machines is basically from, a family. The Interton VC4000. Now, we mentioned that the cartridge slots are different between the different machines. Some of them, as I mentioned, are compatible. What you'll get a lot on these is that they'll be labeled for their machine with like a sticker. I saw a ton of people doing videos with this, and I saw some stuff on eBay where, like, for example, if you've got an Acetronic, let's say you've got an Acetronic C-Attack, or C-Air Attack, instead of having Acetronic, they'll just take a sticker of the exact same color of the cartridge and just put it over top of the Acetronic part.
Yeah.
Everything else will be the same. That's because these games have all the game settings on the cartridge, so you couldn't just cover the whole thing. You could only cover a part of it. That was kind of wacky. So let's go over some of the variants here. I mean, we're not going to go into it too deeply, but I wanted to give you a flavor for some of the crazy names that are out there for this thing. If you go to Wiki, and you go to the 1292 Advanced Programmable Video System, which is what this is, you're going to see a million different systems here. Some of the heavy hitters were manufactured by Rodolphin, Hanamix, Fountain. Of course, our old buddies Grandstand had one of these. You'll recall Grandstand's machine that we covered. The Lansay, the Autosonic, the Prinzonic, of course, the Acetronic, the Video Master, the Routen, the Telling, the Carvin, the Societe Octane Electronique, which is French. You get the picture here. The Interton has its own labeling.
Interton.
And again,
man, that's our console.
These will have different release dates and different styles, but they're all fairly similar in terms of the controller, because they sort of had to be, and they're fairly similar in terms of the look of the machine. Now, it doesn't look the same in terms of it has a cartridge slot, it has the same outputs, that sort of thing.
Yeah, the Cabal, the Interton, the Caravan, the Rotron, the TRQ,
a lot of Trons in there,
and the Volt Mace, along with the Acetronic, seems to be the core like everyone gets you can't use them in each other's consoles, but that's where most of these games, when you release one, you release to that list of consoles.
Yeah. We should also mention that on the console itself, you've got buttons, as was the style of the time.
Yes.
You've got a start, a load program, that's an unusual one, game select, and an on-off switch. The load program switch acts it's pretty much exactly the same as the game reset switch.
Yeah, it's a reset button.
On the Atari 2600. This is very, very similar to the Atari 2600 in the way it's laid out on the actual device. I didn't see a price on these at launch. I looked around. I didn't see anyone that had a price. I'm expecting that they weren't generally mega expensive, but I didn't see any prices. I didn't see any price on the games either. Now, I know what they're going for now, but I didn't see prices for then. Did you catch a price on yours?
Yes. My game sold for 2 different prices.
Yeah.
Towards release, it was £30, and by 1982, they were selling them for £19.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. You may want to understand another bit of weirdness. This is something that was sort of common back in the day. The cartridges on this thing are pretty good size, from what I can tell. They're not 8-track size, but they're bigger than an Atari cartridge.
Yeah, they're between.
Machines don't call them cartridges though; they call them cassettes.
Yes,
but they're not cassettes; they're cartridges.
Yeah, they're PCBs.
So there's a huge. From what I read various different numbers about how many of these games existed, like for this system. The number of games released, according to Wiki, was somewhere in the 33 cartridge range. But I also saw people say there were 40 cartridges. I even saw some people say there were 20 cartridges. And I think the reason that you get those discrepancies is because of the different, so many different manufacturers.
Yeah.
So different cartridges, different systems, depending on the compatibility, would have different amounts of cartridges available to them. From what I can tell, the Acetronic, the number you're getting is about 33.
Yeah, that's what I came up with as well.
So there you go.
And the confusion doesn't stop there.
Oh, what else you got?
Well, like, let's say you get your Acetronic here, right? And you're looking to play some, I don't know, Math 2, right?
Yeah.
Well,
who wouldn't?
They went and numbered all their cartridges.
Yeah.
So on the Acetronic, that cart is number 8. And on the Cabal, the Interton, the Caravan, and the Rotron, it's 6 or 5. But the TRQ, it's cart number 23.
Yeah.
So, it's... I don't know what they were doing. I don't know what they were thinking.
What they were doing was, the reason that there's different numbers is that people would take that... People were basically porting that game over to their brand of cartridge.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it.
Well, I get that. And some did have exclusives. Like the Acetronic got Laser Attack and no one else did. But some, like Leapfrog, which is a Frogger clone, only came out on the Volt Mace. So...
That's a good name, though.
It's one of those things where if these people played together a little nicer, and I'm sure they have their reasons for releasing 8 billion different consoles with the same gun.
You got to. I can explain that.
All right.
So here's the thing: the Acetronic, this whole family of the MPU 1000 games, they basically, it was the old standard. They ran on like basically stock parts that you could just go out and make.
Yes.
And so people were effectively making this standard. All right. So that's why. It'd be more akin to like what 3DO did. They're basically when they licensed out the chipset, not the games, not the systems, and so you've got a bunch of different fairly compatible games. This is the same thing, except not compatible for the most part.
And that, let me tell you something, big mistake.
Well, I mean it's not really. I mean, think about it. They're different regions, so it shouldn't be a big deal unless you had a bunch out in the same region.
No, I mean, no. This was a fault of the late 70s. Of trying to do this million console same guts thing. It didn't work. It failed. It got dropped, and now you have your one console to rule them all through all the regions whenever someone puts out a console. I guess the equivalent is sort of like the PC. Because the PC could have a million types of different guts, but all play the same game.
I don't see it the way you do, and I'll explain why.
Okay.
You look at this through a young man's eyes. I look at this through a Pong eye. Pong had there were a million different types of Pong.
Right.
Okay? And so the truth of the matter is they were basically all the same thing, but they were still Pong, different systems, different manufacturers, because each of these manufacturers wanted to make their own, had their own video game console. This is the same thing. They didn't really care about the other regions or the other manufacturers. They wanted their own. They found this when it worked. They'd already seen it work. They already knew they could get cartridges for it to program. So it made it easier to release your own. And also, you've got to remember that these were regionally released.
Of course.
These things were released all over the place. The countries that this thing was in, by the way, not the U.S. That's why we never heard of it.
No U.S.
Germany, Europe, Australia, New Zealand, and the U.K., France, and Spain were the key areas where this thing romped. So they were mostly locked into those areas. Okay. So there would be some crossover in the area.
Now, I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you think this would have done better or worse if this would have been one console just multi-released throughout?
But that's not the way. That's irrelevant to this conversation.
Listen to me. Now, you've got your pitfalls on doing that because you've got to make a bunch of different SKUs and you've got one company kind of rule on everything.
Yeah.
Do you think this would have done better or worse sales-wise?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't think it would have mattered. It's not the business model.
No, I think it mattered.
You're thinking like someone in the Xbox era.
I'm thinking modern age, but
yeah. They're not going to have.
There's a reason why no one does this multi-console crap.
Yeah, but it's because everyone's stuff's proprietary now. That's why back in these days they were just making crap off parts off the shelf. You don't get it.
I know, I get it. I just don't like it. I hate when systems do this kind of crap. And they
didn't do it on purpose.
I know. You're
killing me here.
I would think from a business sense, even back then, they would have realized how dumb this was.
No, it's not dumb. It's not dumb. It's because it's regional.
I know.
But you don't listen. Why did people make a bunch of 2600s? Same reason. It was parts off the shelf they could make. Come on, use your brain. Anyway, me and Brent before the show also debated heavily where this thing fell in terms of the power of the console and the games that were out for it.
Yes.
I
thought we came to a pretty good agreement.
Yeah, just to kind of give you a quick hint. Right. Yeah, you always think that. So I'm not going to go through the whole games, but just to touch on some of the games that were available, kind of give you a flavor of what you're looking at. As Brent mentioned, you've got games like Mathematics 2, Intelligence 1 and 2, but then you've got the usual stuff. You've got Circus. You've got Pinball. You've got Soccer, Chess, Golf, Solitaire, casino games. Then you had Space Invaders clones, your arcade clones. They had something called Monster Man, Hyperspace, Super Space. I mean, when you look down the list of these cassettes, it's the most generic batch of names you ever heard. And so when you look at the games, they look like they fall into the realm. And I phrase this, I thought these were a step up from like the Fairchild Channel F, and maybe a step backwards from the 2600. I'd say somewhere in the Coco, not Coco, but a little bit before the Odyssey 2. Not quite an Odyssey 2 level, but close. What do you think?
I tend to agree. I think some of these games are on par with 2600 games, and some of them are not. I greatly disagree, though. I think the variety here is remarkable. I mean, yes, they fall on some of the old tropes. You've got all your breakouts and your circuses and your Space Invaders.
Yeah.
But they also have some pretty unique games. They've got some pinball type games. They've got golf. You've got your horse racing. You've got your education type games. I think it actually has a pretty good variety for when you're only talking, 34 games. It's easy to just make Pac-Man 30 times, and they didn't do that. So I think the variety is good. They have 2 Olympic type games. 2.
Yeah, but they're paddle stuff. I looked at those.
No, one of them's not.
Listen, don't fool yourself.
Winter Olympics looks like an actual, or Winter Sports looks like an actual game.
So even the game I picked sort of has a brother game. With all that said, it does have a decently healthy library. So
it does okay.
We had our choices here as to what to pick. I guess we'll go ahead and get the ball rolling because I mean, once I found the ROMs, I did have access to a good chunk of the ROMs where I picked the one I wanted, and I picked the one I wanted sort of for a reason because it reminded me of something I played on the 2600. And so I will lead the dance this week, Brent. Let's delve deeply into ARG Attack. This is cartridge number 5. If you're keeping track at home, as Brent said, your mileage will vary on these cartridges because you never know exactly which system you're looking at number wise.
ARG Attack was between cartridge 1 and cartridge 9 on the various systems.
There you go. So and you also have to bear with us because the information on these cartridges were not. This is a fairly obscure, even by our standards,
the folks,
system.
The folks that are dedicated in preserving the information is really good. There's just not a lot of information out there to preserve.
Well,
for example, release dates for these things. Forget about it. Forget about it. You can't get a pinpoint accuracy.
And I also want to give a special shout out to Hermsky, who not only suggests this, but also thankfully he's done a lot of video with this. This is really untapped.
Yes.
There's very few people on YouTube that have done anything about it, so we used a bunch of his video here. So anyway, the game I chose was in fact ARG Attack, aka ARG Battle, which I don't know, in some systems maybe named that. I read several different dates on this, but we're going to go with 78 for the release on this one. Again, your mileage may vary depending on the system you use. I've got this. The one I focused on was the Acetronics version. Theoretically, they should all be the same.
Yeah,
they should all be the same on that. So, what do you do in this game? Well, this is actually the one thing about this system that I like. Thumbs up from that guy. One thing I like about this system is that you get a bunch of different variants on the game. That's what makes it fun. That's an Atari staple from back in the day. And so, now I didn't realize at the time that most card games had this, but this one has tons. And yours does too, by the way. So
mine's less.
If you look at the cartridge, what you've got here is on the cover of the cartridge, you'll get the different game variants here. You've got 20 variants here, which sounds awesome. It's not really that many because you've got 1 or 2 player options. Now, 1 or 2 player, not bad. I mean, it seems like that's something that's pretty common on the system.
Yeah,
supporting 2 players. So I'm just going to kind of go through these one at a time here. So the first 2 selections are called ship versus sub, and you're basically dropping torpedoes
depth
charges, I should say, down to a multitude of underwater targets. I don't know where this guy's at or what war this is, but I'd be getting the heck out of there. Yeah,
that's the alternate name for this. Is Midway.
Is that? Listen, I don't think there was that much sub traffic in the Battle of Midway.
I'm just telling you.
So on this one, you use your stick to move left and right. Of course, you're on a axis because you're in a boat, and you're trying to time the dropping of your bombs to blow away the guy. You've got a limited number of bombs. You drop them down, and when you hit something, you hit it, and when you don't, you get credit for it. It counts up the number of hits. And when you play the second option on these, you get a second player who plays at the same time, which is cool. I like that. I like that sort of stuff. The numbers 3 and 4 are the same game, except you get to sort of control the depth charge as it goes down. Pretty cool. Again, it's a second player variety. And then numbers 5 and 6, ship versus smaller subs, and then 7 and 8, the same thing with controlled depth charges. So you're going to see the point here where one game is actually turned into, what I say, 8 games.
No,
not
no.
bad.
See, this is kind of
You don't
stuff,
like this though? Why?
No, come on, because
But I mean, they're giving you some variety.
this, in my opinion, this kind of crap is what killed the multi-carts. Like legit multi-carts that came out with 2 or 3 games on them that was awesome because maybe they weren't, super in-depth games, but they were actually different games. Crap like this, advertising on your box, it's like, 20 games. Like, meh. No, it's not.
They all did that though.
But it was bad. They shouldn't have done it. They tried to sell it as this extra value-added thing, and it's not.
It is.
It's
it is
not.
value-added.
No.
Listen.
No, this had 3 games.
I don't have a problem with the multiple when you've got one cartridge, you want a ton of variety.
But these they're not selling points. Small subs. No, that's not.
That means it's a higher difficulty. You're dating yourself here.
No,
because when I was growing up, hold on, let me get this out. When I was growing up, and you played the Atari and the Odyssey to a lesser degree, you got all these options, and that made the game fun because you only had one game, and so you liked having all these varieties. It doesn't seem like a big deal to you now, but it was a bigger deal back then because it provided some sort of, you could adjust the game to be more of your flavor of game.
Listen, you know what did this? The most popular game to have done this was Combat on the 2600. Okay.
No. I mean, I don't think it's the most famous. No, I'd say Asteroids and Space Invaders are more famous than Combat.
Right. So Combat most popular.
Nope.
And then you've got something like 40 variants on Combat, and you can't find what you want. It's like, man, I want to play. I don't know, planes with controllable bullets. 3 planes versus 1. And you're sitting there flipping through like 20 games trying to find what you want to play, and you just like, screw it, I'm just gonna play something else. They need to not have these dumb variants. Cool variants are fine. Going from the ship and subs to the subs versus planes, that is a true variant. Making something a little bit smaller or making it so you control those are options.
No.
Those are
Listen,
options.
I can't believe how wrong you are on this. And dumb. You're
Sorry,
really stinking
man.
it up today because your opinion is wrong. Those options were great. And they added flavor to a very basic game to make it more interesting. This is another thing that was derived from the Pong era. All right? It's the exact same thing. Pong had all those different options, and that's what made it work. That's what made it work. So I think you're dropping the ball on this. There's a perm for getting punched in the face. So
what I'm saying here is don't advertise you have 20 games.
They do have them. They do have that many. Oh my God. I'm moving on. I'm not going to fight with you about this one.
Sorry. I hate that
think
crap.
You're nuts. So the next
I'm not saying don't have the variants. I'm saying you don't list them as 20 games and you don't number them 1 through 20. You have one game and just put some options in there. It would be so easy to do.
They'd be
so easy.
I disagree. I disagree with you. I think they did. I think this holds up quite nicely. Okay. Enough of you. So the next 4 variants your game's the exact same way. The next 4 variants that did it that appear are sub versus a plane. It's a sort of a role reversal here. And the first one's just sub versus plane. Then you've got 3 more that you basically can control more different aspects of a battle. So if you pick game 10, you've got you can control the speed of it. On 11, you can control your missiles, and on the 12th version of this, you can control your missiles and your speed. And this is exactly what you think it is: a plane flying overhead and a sub underneath the water trying to take out the plane. Hey, it could happen in real life. It
could have been one game and it would have been fine.
No. Listen, you got to get off that. You got to move on.
Keep going.
You're physically killing me here. So, the last set of variants, like I said, controls the speed and the power of missile. So, the next bunch of variants are shooting gallery. Now, this machine has another shooting gallery game. I believe it's called Shooting Gallery, sort of similar to this. You're talking, these are options 13 through 20. They're all 1 to 2 players. And what you're doing is you're a man, I'm assuming with like a missile launcher or I don't know, or I don't know what you are
it's
exactly.
like the Sam station.
Well, no, but it looks like a dude there to me. I thought it looked like a guy was there.
Either that or a mortar. Yeah, no,
A mortar?
Yeah.
No, it's not a mortar.
Okay.
So anyway, and what you're doing is just what you would think you would do. You're shooting upwards. Like I said, I mean, I don't get this exactly. I'm trying to. Are you on the ocean floor or what's happening in this?
Okay, you've already put too much thought into it. That's what it is.
I don't
Press
know.
button, shoot things.
Shoot things. You've got now the targets in this are totally different from the targets in the previous games. They move above you and they go back and forth. This sort of reminded me of Atlantis. Remember that where you had to except I mean. The stuff flying overhead reminded me of Atlantis. The gameplay did not. So the gameplay's more like shooting gallery. I know.
This had color, so it reminded me of Pac-Man.
Listen, give me a break. Listen, Lord Soup says it's a beach to me. I think you got it, Soup. I think you might be right. It could be a beach that you're on here because it's deceptive. The other thing is you spent the whole game on the ground, underwater, and the water's been here, and now it's complete changeover. But it does a pretty good job and you've got a limited amount of bullets, the same shtick through this one or two players.
It's a high score game.
Well, yeah, it is. Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Different things you shoot are worth different values of points. And that's all fine. I mean, the game's fine.
So you're killing this thing.
No, I'm not killing this thing. I'm killing the concept.
You're killing this.
No.
This is a 2K ROM cartridge, 2K.
Yeah,
and you're beating it down. What did you think of this? Clearly, you didn't like it.
No, I thought this was pretty good.
So you wait a minute. After all that, you're putting it over?
Yeah. No, hey, just because it does something I don't like doesn't mean that I don't like the game. The gameplay's fine. It's exactly what you would think it is. The last variant where you're shooting from the beach is by far the best. It has this neat arcing component to the missile fires. So you can't hit things when the missile is going up. You are trying to hit things and judge from the arc of the missile for when it comes down. That adds a ton of challenge to it and it makes it way more interesting to play. One thing that surprised the crap out of me with this is the speed of this stuff is off the charts fast. Normally,
it moves good.
Normally these games are all clunky. But this is off the charts fast, and it works to its benefit. Some things you didn't mention on the first game where you're dropping the depth charges. The first three rows of objects are mines, and if you hit those, you don't get any points. It's only the subs beneath, and depending on the depth of the sub, depends on how many.
They're hard
points
to hit too
score.
in that first.
Well,
I thought they were.
It is. They are, but it's just like
to get the real low ones. It's not easy.
Yeah, it's just like anything else. Once you figure out the timing of it, things start.
I never figured it out.
The second game, it's a throwaway.
What?
Yeah, the second game is a throwaway. But the third game where you're arcing the shots, that's pretty good. That's good stuff. Overall, I enjoyed this. I mean, is this some super original game? No, not even close. It's a shooting gallery, but it's a shooting gallery where there is some fun to be had. For me, if you were going to have options on this, I would much rather see some options that adjust how many shots you get. Because in every game mode, you have 15 shots. And then your game's over. And you can get a score off that. I would have liked to have at least seen 30 shots. Or even maybe 50 shots. Because just as you start to get it dialed in, the game's over. Your score resets and you have to play again. Games for this take, 2 minutes? I mean, they can be played in 2 minutes. Obviously, if you don't hit your button, it can sit there and play forever. But typically, this plays in about 2 minutes, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's too short. That's for me. That's too short.
That's the way it used to be. You're judging these things on modern.
No, I'm not. No, I think they said they want the average arcade game to last 3.5 minutes. There's no way this could last 3.5 minutes.
You know, I do want to address the elephant in the room, which is.
Well, let's talk about it.
Oh, yeah, I knew that was coming. So, the elephant is this game a direct ripoff of the Atari game Air Sea Battle by the great Larry Kaplan? The answer is yes.
Yeah, I'll just say, who cares?
Yes, it is. It's very similar to Air Sea Battle, which is why I picked it, because I kind of liked Air Sea Battle back on the Atari. It, too, had a million variants. It, too, had a bunch of different actual games on the cartridge. It was a fun game. I think this is pretty good, though. It's right. I mean, they're neck and neck. And this, Air Sea Battle came out in 77. This one, we think, came out in 78.
Yeah.
So you're somewhere
that
in the
would
ballpark.
Be our guess. 78, 79.
I think graphically it's close. I mean, the Atari had these sort of granular color changes.
Fake
for
shading.
Horizons and stuff. But
which I don't think actually adds anything to the game.
It doesn't. I mean, it's just visual. That's all it is. But I think this is I would say this is fairly close in terms of how it plays. Believe it or not, we actually got a review on this. I guess we would have expected to have gotten one here. And our review this time around comes from Hermsky himself. Hermsky writes, Air Sea Attack review, a firm 6 out of 10. Enjoyable shooting game. Too much of a similar take on Space Invaders. I can sort of see that. However, the two-player games were a complete blast to play with your mates. On this very early console, I did enjoy the guided missile game variant more, yes. Let me just give you something to do. It also makes you feel like a big man. The game was very similar to another release called Shooting Gallery, yes, which devalued the game slightly. So that's why it got the 6 out of 10. I think Herm pretty much nailed it.
Yeah.
I didn't get to play Space Invaders on this, so I don't know how close it is, but like I said, it's very similar to Air Sea Battle. So
I don't see the comparison.
I should mention before we move on, that's I always try to do. I try to look this stuff up on eBay, and the cartridges to find on eBay, I had a real problem, if I'm honest, finding them. But I did find a couple Air Sea Attacks on sale. They were not cheap. One was $90 and one was $145.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, I said they weren't cheap, and
well,
that's what not cheap means.
I had a completely different experience.
Yeah.
I saw these things selling console with like 6 or 7 games for like $80.
Well, I priced the console as well, and the consoles were going for. I found an untested one in the UK for $53.
Yeah.
But I found a Radifin Hanamex Acetronic complete with a bunch of cartridges. He was asking, mind you, $4K for this thing.
Give me a break.
I'm just saying.
No, what insanity.
One more item before we move to the next game is that, and I should have mentioned this earlier, as far as I can tell, these did not ship with any sort of instructions or manuals. I looked around.
I found conflicting information.
Really? Okay, well, good. We'll get you to it. So,
no, I don't know. I'll just go ahead and say it now. I have seen links for manuals that are no longer valid, but I can't imagine they would have links and not have an actual product at some time. So I would assume these did have some kind of insert, but they're pretty much lost to time.
Yeah.
At least as far as we could have found.
I could not find anyone that, and I looked at people who had some of these, and they indicated that at least the ones that I looked up did not have any sort of instructions. So there you go, which would explain why they put the game briefs on the cartridge. Not the worst idea. So, Brent, that was Air Sea Attack. What did you bring to the table this week?
Grand Prix. Driving game. And this was an interesting driving game. Yeah. First of all, it
was interesting. I'll grant you that.
This is one of the early games, cartridge number 2 for the Acetronic. And I'll have to say, it had 10 variants, right? But the difference is these were actual variants. This had 3 games, and the last game had several tracks, which are actual variants of the game, not whatever
it was
missile,
very similar to
small
mine.
Sub.
No, it was very similar to mine. It had different games on the same cartridge, but they had different variants. Don't act like it was different.
No. Let me explain, because you were obviously confused.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
The variants were 1-player, 2-player, which it's just how they did it back in the day, right? And then you had 3 actual different games, and the last variants, which were 6 through 10 on the cart, are different tracks. That is how it's supposed to be done. They didn't have small car, big car, fast car, small car. They took what they wanted to do with the game and compressed it down to where you just had the best possible variant per section of the game. So, Grand Prix, this came out either as Cart 1 all the way up to Cart 16, so this was definitely one of the earlier games. A for sure date on its release, I couldn't find.
We guessed.
But we're expecting, since this came out along, as Cart 2, it probably came out in 78.
Yeah.
Saying that the carts are actually numbered in the order they were released, which by everything we found, that's how it was done.
We took an educated guess on the date.
So how are the gameplay on this? Well, your first mode is Grand Prix, and that has you at the bottom of the screen. And if you play 1 player, you get 1 big wide road. Or if you play 2 player, there are 2 half screen roads. So
pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to make this harder, you could play it as 2 player and just play, as 1 person. You don't actually have to have the other person. You drive, although one thing that needs to be mentioned, when you're playing 2-player mode, there are only 4 cars that you have to dodge each time. And when you're playing in single-player mode, there are 8 cars that you have to dodge. And all the cars are different colors.
It's very colorful.
Yeah, visually, this looks very, very nice.
This system is very colorful.
Yeah, it does well.
It's definitely steps up from like that odd palette like Channel F.
Yes.
Which we liked, but it was just real strange and kind of weird.
Yeah, this
is very much
a
sharp,
traditional
like
palette.
More like an Atari 2600. Yeah.
This is your standard box of crayons, which personally I think is for the best. So you are it's your it's your classic thing. You're at the bottom of the screen and you have to dodge the cars coming down at you.
Yeah.
There are parts of this I really enjoy. It has a really good sense of speed.
It's funny when we played this on the Mister. It was much faster than what we're seeing in Hermsky's video.
No, I think it's about.
I wonder if it's an NTSC thing or something, because it seemed to me like
that's
it was
very possible.
It seemed to me faster when we did it, and since I've got it set up.
You know what? I bet that is the NTSC.
It was as we watched this video, I thought the version we played of this was really
although
hard.
This
doesn't look that much different, but the other one does a lot different.
So it keeps track of every time that you wreck, you hit another car or you hit the wall. But it doesn't keep track of how long you've been playing, nor does it keep track of how many cars you've passed. And I think that's very odd. I think that was an odd choice.
Yeah.
Maybe they didn't have the ability. I mean, because you pass a lot of cars. Like I said, they throw 8 at you at a time. So maybe that was just too much to keep up with counting wise for the system, or
surely not.
Well, I mean the number, they're 2-digit numbers, so it kind of keeps track of how many segments you've done. There is a timing element, but I don't understand what it's trying to calculate. So you play for X amount of times with your friends, or until someone crashes X amount of times. The rules aren't hard baked into the game. You are kind of making them up for yourself. I don't have a problem with that.
I like the way Turbo handles this, for example, better, where it keeps track how many cars you passed towards an ultimate goal where you finish that segment. I like that. But I mean, again, Turbo was several notches above this end in the arcade. So
now,
this is more of your traditional old school.
Yes.
Sort of,
and it has one major flaw.
Yeah.
And it's one that can't be looked past.
Yeah.
When you pass all the cars, right? They flow down the screen. They looks nice. They have some variety to the patterns, but it's not crazy. you could definitely get into a groove where you just keep passing the things. I think I never got there, but I think I could get there.
You were doing pretty well. I was pretty impressed with your play.
So the problem is when the last car goes off the bottom of the screen, there's not a smooth transition from the new cars coming down. Instead, it's a blink.
It's like a wave.
It's a blink, and the new cars appear already halfway down the screen.
Yeah.
Kills the fun for me.
Well, it doesn't give you much time to react. Some would say that it would be enhancing the...
It does enhance the difficulty, but enhancing the difficulty doesn't make it fun.
Yeah, I didn't think this was all that great. It was okay.
Yeah.
I mean, again, it was a game of its era. It looked nice.
Yes.
I will say, and you can never know how this is going to handle because we didn't have the actual joystick.
Yeah.
We used a Xbox One stick, the analog on it, which is pretty renowned for being pretty good.
Yeah.
And you needed nimble fingers to move this sucker around.
This game, the analog is way sensitive.
Yeah.
You have to hold up to go, which, whatever, okay. And I guess, technically speaking, if you didn't hold up all the way, you wouldn't go full speed. But for the controllers we had, not going full speed wasn't an option.
And something discombobulated is some of these games, you expect your car to move up the screen. Like a bump and jump. Your car never moves.
That's the.
Well, I'm just saying. When I first started playing it, I was sort of expecting to go up a little bit.
No. The analog playing with the Xbox stick, you are only moving if straight up with 0 degrees, you're only moving maybe 10 degrees either way, and that's probably being generous. So from a modern control perspective, which I know is not completely fair to the game, but I think it needs to be mentioned. And yes, you could probably go in and tweak this or whatever, right? But from a modern control perspective, you're only using about 20 degrees on each side of that forward, so it's mega sensitive. For me, that's not a problem. I've played analog games long enough that I have really good thumb control, but it's wacky tight.
Yeah, again, this is not using the actual stick, so
right.
Who knows how it would have played with those.
So the next variant is Rally.
Yeah.
And Rally is, again, you're very traditional.
Yeah.
You're at the bottom of the screen. The road draws out in front of you, and it almost looks like a spaceship from the top of the screen is shooting down at just a wide enough pattern for your car, and you have to dodge in between them.
Yeah.
The graphics on this particular game I did not find appealing. The background of being blue didn't make sense to me, and the game can do gray because it did gray in the other screen. Gray would have made a lot more sense to me. This is your traditional, what is it, Knight Rider, Aaron? That this is
Night Driver.
Night Driver.
Sorta.
The pace of this, again, blazing fast.
Yeah.
Leaves very little room for error. This, it does give you a sense of looking down the road because at the top it actually starts together and you can see it weaving back and forth, and then it opens up in a V pattern as you get closer to it, trying to do that perspective thing. So it gives you enough time to react, unlike just the pop in of the previous game. I thought this was fairly playable. I thought the speed was impressive. I think the road variance leaves a little bit to be desired. There definitely is a pattern there, and there is no straights. There are no straights. It always is curving. It's always moving back and forth. I wish they would have had some segments of straightaways to kind of break up the left and right that it keeps forcing you to do. However, I think this is better than the first game on the card. What do you think?
I agree with you. This is another one. It was not easy. The other one, you would get hung up real bad sometimes when you died. This one wasn't. This one I felt like it was a little more fair. It's kind of fun. Again, this is not anything that's that unusual for the era. But it did play quickly. Watching the screen draw is almost hypnotic. If you look at it, it's very weird to watch for a long period of time. It's almost like watching snow or something. It's just real strange. But it's up. But otherwise, it's pretty much standard fare. It's very touchy. You can imagine playing a game like this with that Coco-like control stick.
Yeah.
And the one thing that those give you and listen, like I mentioned before, we didn't have the actual sticks for this, and so when you've got that control stick that's longer, you've got much more precise control over your movements.
Yeah, I agree.
And it would be better to play with games like this than the little stubby little gamepad stick that we use.
Now, that being said, I would do better at this type of game now than I would have back then because I did not have the analog control back then that I do now.
You were doing pretty good on this, I thought.
This, again, it counts every time that you hit a pylon, you go off the road, however you want to view it. And it has a counter that it doesn't count in seconds. It doesn't count in some kind of time. I guess it's trying to represent like miles, maybe, or kilometers. I guess would be more accurate.
Yeah.
But
I thought
it
was weird.
I would much rather have a timer for something like this. A timer that counts down and a score rather than how many times you wrecked.
Yeah, I don't get why they did that on this. This is another one coming up. It's the same thing.
So the last variant on the cart is track racing, and track racing.
Wow. These titles really blow you away.
It's just what it says. Track racing is variants 5 through 10, and like I said before, the reason why they do that is you get 3 completely different tracks with 1 player and 2 player. Good variants. That's the way you do it. This is your top-down view as a sprint style or a super off-road type view, but it's straight down, and you are tasked with driving around a very difficult course.
Well, it depends on which variant you
All
have.
of the variants are very difficult courses.
Well, the control on this is not... This is one where the analog controls, for me, the one we use especially, made it real tough to get around. I'd rather have had a center joystick for this one.
Okay, I'm not going to disagree with that.
Yeah,
but I really felt like the controls on this were solid. I got very used to...
You've got those tank kind of controls.
Well, no, it's not a tank. No.
Well, you know.
No, it's not. It's not tread controls
they're difficult.
At all.
I thought they were.
I really enjoyed this one.
Really?
This was my favorite of the bunch.
This one?
Yes. I really like the sprint type games, and I thought that they were bold. They were bold to make the tracks as difficult as they were. Big thumbs up for that. This would be absolutely what I would play the most because you get better. I mean, sure, you get better at the first 2 games too, but you get better at them because you learn the patterns, in my opinion. You get better because you start saying, okay, I need to take this quarter wider. I need to leave myself more room in the straightaway before I have to brake and go around the curves. And this is a game where braking and speeding up absolutely necessary because when you get a straightaway, you really want to punch the gas full throttle down. But when you get to a curve, if you do not slow down, you will wreck, you will hit the wall. And this is one of those games when you make contact with the wall, instantly drops all your momentum to 0. And then you kind of have to pivot around.
I'm not sure we played the same game. Here's the game I played. This is not a car racing game. This is like you're racing a drunken turtle around the arena. It's slow, plodding.
What?
You can't help but hit the wall every time you get any sort of speed. It's hard to control. This was a dud.
No.
Like the Coco did this. I mean, the Odyssey 2's version of this was way better looking and better controlling.
I completely
about it.
Disagree. This is what you have to know about this game that makes it a little bit awkward at first.
Yeah.
When you are going up, down, left, or right, which, you know, when your car is pointing in that direction, you go 1 speed. When your car is going diagonally, like you're trying to make a turn, your car goes a different speed, even if you're pressing all the way up on the controller. Once I figured that out, I was able to start making turns more efficiently and really felt like I was getting around the track at a decent pace. Having 3 tracks to master on this, icing on the cake, by far the best part of the game. However, it has one huge, unforgivable, major flaw.
Just one?
Yes.
All right, I got to hear this.
It counts every time that you crash.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
No.
Why?
It's because that's dumb.
Well, it's not.
It's only got 2 digits. That's one reason. It needs 4.
I agree. There's no point in it, but it's not a detriment. You have no timer on this. You don't have a timer to show how fast you get around the laps. That is criminal.
I never understood. Well, I mean, listen.
Criminal.
They could have used the sundial on this to change
no,
it
wasn't that bad. This game, now yes, you could have a watch off to the side, and I understand that a lot of the games of this era, you had to kind of make your own rules when you were playing with your buddies and stuff. This just gave you the base game, and that's fine. But not having a timer on this was just mind-boggling, because that's the whole point. That's the whole point.
All these games had weird, like none of them did the right thing when it comes to the scorekeeping.
It was
and stuff.
weird.
It was weird.
It was weird.
And this one, I totally disagree with you. This thing is, I've been to go-kart races, the ones without the engine, the derby races, and they're faster than this.
Oh,
Slow, plodding,
you're crazy.
No good. It's a stinker. It's too hard to control. How can something not moving very fast be that hard to control?
We had 2 different experiences.
Yeah, I didn't like
because
it.
The first track has long straightaways where you can really crank up the speed, but the other 2 tracks are really tight. I mean, you don't have enough.
I know. I agree.
You don't have enough straightaways to really feel like you're going fast. Whereas that's not what it's about. It's about precision. You want speed. That's game 2. All right.
Listen, I thought the controls, again, full disclaimer, we don't have a proper controller. I thought the controls were no good.
Oh, I thought they were fine.
They're very touchy.
I thought they were fine.
Yeah, well, that's just me. What else you got?
This came out in our good in the magazine. Our good friends over at Computer and Video Game Magazine.
Really? They reviewed this?
They reviewed this.
I can't believe
in 1982.
All
so
right.
up to 4 years after the game was
still
initially
pretty close.
released.
It's not too bad.
And they again, much like last week when they did the review of the game that wasn't actually the game, this one was closer. You could at least tell that they probably saw some pictures of the game.
Yeah.
But the review is kind of all over the map. And at one point,
Well, you don't think they played this one either?
at one point, you have to question if it was almost like they played this when it was released and then waited 4 years to do the review, because
I wish we could do that.
the facts that they're bringing forward don't match up to what I experienced. But that is where I got the prices. Apparently, in 1982, this was £19.
You know, I will say one thing I enjoyed this week, the Brent, because this was not the easiest one we've done. It was neat to sit down and get to play it beside you and sit there and watch and we could at least. It was neat to see your method up close.
Yeah.
Again, and I will say after seeing it up close and hearing your review, your method needs improving. Just me. So, what do you think about this system overall? Are you giving it the high side or not?
No.
Oh, burial?
No.
Full burial?
I don't think it's either of those things. I think this is a system of the time. If you have a personal experience, by the way, we got a Hermsky review.
Yeah, I'll get to it. I want to hear your thoughts.
This is a system that if you grew up with, I'm sure you would have a lot of fun and a lot of joy going back to it. But as someone who grew up with an Atari 2600,
yeah,
it's the same, but just different enough that if I wanted to play this style of game, I would go play 2600.
I will say some of the games I thought looked better than 2600. So there had some games that were standout.
Absolutely. Now, I'm not saying this doesn't have a place. I'm just saying if I was going to play this type of game, it would be for that nostalgia. And if I'm going to do that, I'm going to play the 2600. So am I burying this? No. I think what it does fine. But for me, this isn't something I'd come back to because I never grew up with it.
Yeah, fair enough. So just to close shop on here, our good pal Hermsky wrote us a little review here, the Grand Prix review. A Herm firm 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
Brent. Holy smokes.
I think that's a little high, but I
For
can definitely
me,
see
one
it.
of the best games released on the Acetronic that wowed me from right off. I felt I was getting a bargain having 3 game types in one cart. My favorite of the 3 was the rally game that after a few minutes of playing sent me into a trance with the help of a single Note 10 made at top speed. Good job. I was playing this as a child rather than as an adult after a few beers. Actually, I might want to give it a try. So yeah, I'm not sure a few beers are going to entice and help you out there. However, a great remake of the classic Night Driver arcade cabinet. My first games console was the black and white Pong system, the Benetton, which we covered. I then moved to the Acetronic, which was a huge step up, being one of the first color systems. Grand Prix was the bare bones of a brand new genre that has become one of the most popular today. History has just been made, according to Hermsky.
Something to note.
Oh, yeah?
This was one of the best-selling games, at least in 1982, according to the Computer Games and Video Games article. This was the top-selling game for Grand Prix.
That doesn't surprise me.
No.
It doesn't surprise me. Although, given of the 2 we covered, I preferred mine, to be honest with you. But that's just me.
That's fine.
So I think we'll be back down this path again. This one's going to get put in a retro rewind bag.
They all get put in the retro
No,
rewind
they don't.
bag.
No, they don't. Some of them accidentally get lost, if you know what I mean, man. With all that said, it's time to spin the wheel, Brent, and make the deal. Let's get it going here.
For our retro rewind this week, we added 4 player games and the new piece, Engage, from Lansay.
Man.
So we
Man,
got
I'm not looking forward to that.
we got a lot of minefields on here, Aaron.
All right, well, get her good there. Okay, that's beautiful. Look at that. Isn't this nice? Now we're together. You get to take control of the wheel again.
It does feel nice to properly spin the wheel.
Oh, give me a break. Here we go, everybody. Man, look at that thing, guys. You can blow that thing right out the back of the building one of these days, hitting it like that. The big winner.
Whoa,
it just stopped
it just
quick.
barely went over.
I was watching his hands. What we got? Games?
Band/artist game.
Holy smokes! Another Hermsky.
Another Hermsky.
What are the odds? 2 Hermskys in a row. You must be living the good life over there, Herm. So we're gonna be doing now. These are games that are based on a band or artist.
I would assume so.
Well, that's kinda,
I know what I'm playing. Bam.
What are you playing?
I'm not telling you. I'm gonna wait until the 11th hour.
Can
you
give some examples of some games that were based solely on one band?
Revolution X.
Yes.
Aerosmith game.
That is one. I'm gonna play that. Didn't Marky Mark have a game on the CD32 or it was the CD30? The Sega CD.
Yes, the video making game.
Should do that one. Or I'm sure Lindsay Lohan's got a few out there. Or maybe Samantha Fox Poker.
Kiss Pinball is mentioned in
Pinball.
chat.
There's all kinds of
absolutely
of choices here. Now, is everything in play?
Yeah.
What if I want to play something that didn't Guitar Hero? Is that in play?
No. I think it needs to be a single band or entity.
Well, I mean, I'm saying they had Aerosmith had its own pack for Guitar Hero, for example.
Oh, that would be fine.
Okay.
You're not going to do that, but I would be fine with
Journey. That's a good one. I think we already covered that one though. So that'll be a lot of fun. A lot of different possibilities next week.
Absolutely.
Certainly, it'll be easier to emulate for you. Of course, the Brent.
We'll see.
Yeah. There you go. Brent has trouble with that. Anything you want to talk about here towards the end of the show here before we call it a night?
No.
I do want to mention. I do want to mention once again our good friend, the On Collective. His friend is still looking for that organ transplant. I'm going to once again put the link in the show notes at the bottom. If you know anyone that has a connection there for him, just click on the link. I did it last week as well, and we appreciate it. Hey, you got to watch out for each other, especially now. Now more than ever, we got to keep our eyes out and watch their back. Curtis mentions Boat Fest. If you want to talk about Boat Fest real quick, we're really starting to put the boots to Boat Fest in terms of getting this thing put together. The Brent. I think tickets are nearing the halfway sold out point at this juncture. And I'm telling you, the thing is, a lot of people are holding out to buy them because it's like local and stuff. So if you're gonna come, I wouldn't wait too long to get a ticket.
And the tickets number is not some kind of artificial, oh, they'll let me in at the door type thing. It's a based on
it's a fire marshal
right,
thing.
the
Yeah.
occupancy of the room. So they're going to be coming by and counting that crap, and we can't be over.
Well, I think I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I guess you're right. I don't think we can. Now this takes place June 24th and June 25th in beautiful and scenic Taze Valley, West Virginia. Literally, about 4 miles from here?
Yes.
Right up. It's a 4-minute drive from my house right up to the front door of this joint, which is great for me, eh? Listen, you're gonna have the boat. You're gonna have the Brent, Jack Flack, all the locals here. Your John Marshalls, the Chud will be around, I'm sure. Good and Matt, guys like that. But you're also gonna have lots of interesting computer hardware. I'm emptying the vault, Brent. Did you want to play? Anyone can play an Amiga 1200. Anyone can play a CD32. But how many times have you got to toy around with a Amiga from Edu? Because I'll be putting my Unamiga out there on the show floor. If you want to tour out the Unamiga, complete with the weird mystery editions. Like no one's got one of these. I'm one of the only people on Earth that's got one. We're gonna have all of our old consoles out there. We're gonna have the virtual pinball machine out there. We're going to have swap meets. There's going to be karaoke. It's going to be nonstop fun. 2 days of joy.
Live shows.
Hopefully, we'll get some people together for some touring as well. I plan on taking the people over to Point Pleasant to look at some of the Mothman stuff and probably tour some of the local Indian burial mounds. A lot of good times, a lot of interesting stuff that's literally within minutes of the show itself. For some of the after-hour stuff, so that should be a lot of fun as well.
Although, if you're coming over from the UK, what we consider minutes, you will consider a day trip.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's not that far.
Keep that in mind.
That's not that far, though, in all honesty. So, yeah, again, that is Friday, June 24th, and Saturday, June 25th. Please, if you will go to, I believe the address I've got here is boatfest.info. Boatfest.info. That's pretty easy. INFO for all your Boatfest needs and for tickets. Well, it could be NFO.
Okay, all right.
Well, yeah,
sure.
Now you get it, don't you? Oh, yeah, now who's the jerk? So, next week, it's games based on bands or artists. Wasn't there a game based on like a fashion designer or something? No, it was a famous spray paint guy. He could be in the mix too. Echo or whatever his name is. Am I nuts? Am I
Pretty
crazy?
sure that's
Help
a
me out.
dolphin.
Oh, shut up. We're done. We'll see you guys next week. And until then, bye.
Thanks for joining us today. Special thanks to Duncan Styles for our vector style graphic and Bart Pitt for our amazing music. Would you like to help keep ARG spinning? You can do so at patreon.com/ARG Presents, just like these fine folks. Mario Ramey, Z9K9, Jerry Dennington, John Dykeman, Retroalgy, Air Shack, Texas Foosballer, Sundown, Oram, Super Tech Boy, David Terrence, Mr. B, Roushie, Graham W. Vetke, Dave Velociraptor, Bernhard Lucas, Steve Rasmussen, Anthony Jarvis, Bitter Blitter, Pajaco 6502, Kevin Bean, Andy Jones, Andy Craig, Rob Black O'Hara, Jason Warrens, Mitsuyama, Chris Foles, Frodo NL, The Slow North, John Schaller, The On Collective, Gary Heather, Terry Howard, Olaf Hope, and Rollo. You can join us live every Sunday, 10 a.m. EDT on Twitch. Hope to see you there.